it's Reagan and welcome back to another video. I'm in a new sitting down angle. I honestly feel like I'm about to give like a webinar or something, but today I'm actually doing a super highly requested video. I am finally sitting down and doing a tier ranking video. I love watching these on BookTube. They're one of my favorites. I've seen so many. Hannah, Daniel's. I just think they're so fun to see people's hot takes. I love a list, as we know. So I've decided today to do a fantasy book tier ranking video of all of the fantasy books I have read. This will include series and standalone fantasy novels. Before I jump into the actual tier ranking list and the books, I do want to quickly go through the stipulations that I use to kind of cut the books down. Because if I'm being transparent, I've read a lot of fantasy books in my life and I already have over 100 books with these rules I put in place. And if I didn't have them, we would be here all day. So how I decided to make this list was I first and foremost defined fantasy as anything ranging from high fantasy to urban fantasy. So we're going to be including paranormal elements. There's going to be vampires on this list. For series, I basically had to read more than one book. So if a series is out that only has one book, it does not count. If a series is out that I have not read more than one book, does not count. Had to have read at least 2 books within a fantasy series. Obviously, if the book is a standalone, it counts on its own because that's the only book out for that particular fantasy world. I also included series I DNF'd at one book because I'm obviously not going to continue on and I have a definitive thought and ranking for that series after one book. Some genres I did not include, some subcuts are sci-fi, which I don't think should ever be included in fantasy. I don't know what other people think about that, but that also magical realism I did not include. Obviously, some of these genre choices are up to interpretation. I always feel like the buckets you could put books can be in multiple different buckets, but this is how I personally defined everything. That being said, I still have over 100 books to chat through today. There are a lot, even with those cut down. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into my list. All right, so here's my tier ranking list. Here's all the pictures, everything organized. So I decided to make a few of my own categories, but I obviously pulled some from some of my favorite videos as well, including Hannah's. So the first 2 are pretty self-explanatory. God tier, these are like top books, favorite books of all time, the books I would reread over and over again, the books I would die for. These are my favorite, essentially. There's not gonna be very many books in the God tier. Personally, I feel like it should be kept to just a few, which is why there's a demigod tier, which is like exceptional books that I love, 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 but might not make it quite to that God tier, but are still like so good, would recommend them to anyone at any day point in time. Right underneath that, we have Great, which is essentially just like a very solid book. A book that is, you know, really strong on multiple different points of its plot, great characters, great intrigue, politics, world building, all of that, like a very solid novel, like a B+ novel. Next, we have Heart Eyes, which is a category I made because I love romance novels. I love fantasy romance novels. It's just a part of a plot that I personally fall for every time. I just love a good fangirl moment. I can also acknowledge a lot of the fantasy books that I love that are heavy on the romance are objectively not as great as some other books and are generally lacking in other parts of its plot. So I kind of made its own category called Heart Eyes, where like the books that I love the romances are, but acknowledge that the books themselves aren't like all around great, can live, and it's under the great tier and just above the good tier, which is like a solid C book. Like, it's good. It's one I'd recommend. It's not one that's gonna blow your mind, but like it's a good, decent book. From there, I have Middle School Me Loved It. I, again, have been reading fantasy for a long time, so there are quite a few series that are very fundamental to my life and existence as a reader that are probably not great, and that's kind of where these books are gonna live. You're gonna see some serious throwbacks within this video. And then lastly, there's the no category, which is no, these books are just no. So without further ado, let's dive right in. So, okay. So I'm just gonna start just over here. Oh my God, Under the Never Sky, what a throwback. This is one of the first books I read for BookTube. It's gonna go in the no category. It's not very good. Even back when I was in like 11th grade, didn't continue on with that after I read the first one. Daughter Smoke and Bone, definite hard eye category. Love the romance in this. I was obsessed with those 2 characters. It has beautiful writing and the plot was definitely interesting, but I think I personally would acknowledge that the world building and the politics were not nearly as strong as the romance, and the reason why I loved it so much was because of the romance and the writing style. Laini Taylor has beautiful writing. Coldest Girl in Coldtown, a Holly Black vampire standalone. I'm gonna put this in good. It's good. It's good. Yeah, I think it's like it's good. It's an entertaining book. I remember enjoying it. It's not mind-blowing, but it's a good book. Next up we have Vicious. Oh man, this is hard. I love Vicious. This was one of like the first adult fantasy books I read. Really made me love V.E. Schwab. I might put it in demigod tier. This is like a book that's pretty fundamental to me and I love it a lot. Unspoken, that's in the no category. I loved the first one way back, but even I remember continuing on and did not like books 2 and 3. It was not very, very good at all. Neverwhere, I'm gonna put in the great category. This was definitely one of my favorite Neil Gaiman books. I really love the dark underworld and kind of the spooky Londonness of it. It's really good, and again, one of my favorite Neil Gaimans. This might be a little controversial. I'm gonna put Good Omens in good. Good Omens. This is a book I liked. It didn't blow me away. It was definitely funny, but it wasn't one that was like knocked my socks off, I guess. I really wanted to love it, but I would say like it is a good book, just wasn't something that I would say is like great or demigod tier or anything like that. Keeper of the Lost Cities, I'm gonna put into great. This is by far and away one of the best middle grade fantasy books, so I'm gonna put it there. It's one of my favorites, as you guys know. Big fan of that. Oh my god, Obsidian. It's just like a Twilight ripoff, right? Sparkly people. Are they aliens or is it some sort of fantasy thing? If they're aliens, I don't know if I should have included this. Goodreads led me astray. They said it was fantasy. I'm gonna put it in the no category regardless because no mas. Oh my god, The Golden Compass. Middle school me loved it. This is a book I need to reread. This trilogy made me feel like such a rebellious middle schooler growing up in Texas. This was a book that some kids just like, it's just, you just didn't read it, you know? Harry Potter and this were kind of controversial sometimes. And I read this and I felt like a true, like I was like, oh yeah, I am taking it to the man. I'm reading Golden Compass. I rented this from my school library because they of course had it in the library, but I still felt rebellious. Next we have Falling Kingdoms, which is one that I enjoyed, but I'm gonna put in the good category. Like this is a good fantasy series. This I would say is definitely good. It's not the best YA fantasy I've ever read, but it has like good romance, good plot, overall like entertaining. One that I would recommend, but it's definitely not like the best version of this I've ever read. Oh my gosh, Written in Red. This I need to reread. I'm gonna put it in good category for now because I've read the first 2 books and this is a good urban fantasy adult series and one that I should probably recheck out. I remember liking it, but I think because I never finished it, I can't really put it any higher than the good category. But I need to reread it. Maximum Ride, no. I loved the first couple when I was a kid, but even like 12-year-old me was angry at James Patterson about how this whole series was going down. Next up is Magnus Chase, which I'm gonna also put in the good category. This is probably one of the further ranked down Rick Riordan series I've read. I like it, but it's not my favorite of them all. Like it's still very enjoyable, but compared to some other ones, it's fine. Winter's Curse. I'm gonna put this in the great. To me, this is like a solidly underrated YA fantasy series. I feel like it builds really well. The whole trilogy is really satisfying. I liked it a lot. Court of Thorns and Roses going in the hard eye category for sure. Any Sarah J Maas book does for me because honestly, I can't get enough of her romances. I find them so entertaining. The Alchemist, middle school me loved it. I should reread this. The Nicholas Flamel middle grade series. Wow, that's a throwback. I need to, yeah, it's been a very long time, but I loved this. And I was so obsessed with like alchemy-based fantasy books for a while. Walk on Earth, A Stranger. I'm gonna put this in good. It's not as strong as her Girl of Fire and Thorn series, but it's good. And one I still need to complete, but I enjoy it. It's like a Gold Rush fantasy series. It's entertaining. But not mind-blowing. Raven Boys, I'm just gonna throw into good. I need to finish this, and I found the first couple compelling, but again, nothing that kind of blew me away. I also found a lot of the like boys kind of annoying. Hot take. This is gonna be demigod tier. And it is because the Girl on Fire and Thor series by Ray Carson is by far and away one of the best YA fantasy series I've ever read. It's so good. Next level for sure. Still nothing in God tier, but I'm sure we'll get there. All right. Oh, Warbreaker, demigod tier. This is probably like in my top 3 favorite Brandon Sanderson series, which is saying a lot because Brandon Sanderson's like one of my favorite authors. And Warbreaker is an exceptional fantasy standalone by him, and one I would really recommend to be like one of the first ones you check out by Brandon Sanderson. It follows 2 sisters. It's so well written. I love it so much. There's apparently going to be more books in this series, but I think technically right now I'm going to classify it as a standalone because that has sort of like been said for a long time. Chain of Gold, the new Last Hour series, Heart Eyes. I love Cassandra Clare's recent series for the romances. That's why I read them, not because of anything else. It's a deception. I'm gonna give this a great. This to me is also another really good YA fantasy trilogy, really solidly written, has some great elements, obviously strong on the romance, but has some great politics as well, one that I really enjoyed. Okay, we've reached our first God tier. Oh, we have a couple God tiers in a row. So Name of the Wind, God tier, Obvi, one of my favorite series of all time. And then the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. N.K. Jemisin is my hero in life. She's so talented. And the Broken Earth trilogy is one of the greatest things I've ever read with my eyes ever of all time. So both of those go into God tier because obviously. City of Stairs, demigod tier. This trilogy by Robert Jackson Bennett is so good, so interesting, combining political thriller with fantasy. It's one of the most creative and interesting things I've ever read. Robert Jackson Bennett, also one of my favorite authors. Not quite God tier, but very close. Very close. Very, very close. A Number in the Ashes, great. This is another solid YA fantasy series that has great romance, but in my opinion, also really interesting politics, like Roman inspired. Very entertaining. Iron Trials, I'm gonna put in good. I don't have a lot to say with this. It's like a interesting middle grade series. Truth Witch, I'm also gonna put in good. I need to reread this. I liked it, but I don't have, like, it needs to be something I like reread because my general feelings of it's just kind of like good. Darker Shade of Magic. I love this series. Ooh, great demigod, great demigod. Demigod. I love that series. It's really good. And one that I try to get a lot of people to read because I feel like it's like a solid place to start from a fantasy perspective. Neil Gaiman Graveyard Book, I'm gonna put in good. The Red Queen, no. That is a series I don't particularly like. Oh goodness, okay. Queen of the Tearling. Oh, this is one of my favorite series. Where do I put this? Demigod? Great. I'm gonna put it in great. This is such an exceptional trilogy, one that's really clever. Demigod. I'm gonna leave it in great. That was a hard decision though, I won't lie. Okay, now we're kind of getting into some Cinda Williams Chima. This is her Broken Realm series. I'm gonna put this in great. Shattered Realm series, rather. I love Cinda Williams Chima. This shouldn't be a huge surprise that I put this here. I have like a whole shelf dedicated to her. I think she is one of the best YA fantasy writers out there. So I'm putting that there. Six of Crows, great. I think that's a really entertaining duology by Leigh Bardugo. Do I have Shadow and Bone on here? Oh, I forgot Shadow and Bone. Shadow and Bone would be in the good or no category for me. I don't know where the picture is. I must have missed it. Oh my god, Scott Westerfeld Midnighters. I have read so many Scott Westerfeld books, like probably 15. All of them in middle school. He was like my favorite author. Midnighters go in middle school, me loved it. It's probably not very good, I won't lie. Artemis Fowl, middle school me loved this. Cannot wait for the movie. This was so much fun. Great series. Uprooted, I'm gonna put in the great category. I love Naomi Novak. She writes really beautiful standalone fantasy novels with great writing and like really dark fantasy whimsicalness to them, which I really appreciate. The Baron the Nightingale. Do I put this in demigod tier or god tier? Demigod tier. This series though, I could cry. Fantasy, Russian fantasy, magic, it's amazing. Lady Midnight, Hard Eyes for sure. City of Bones, I'm gonna put in Middle School Me Loved It because honestly the original City of Bones series I don't think is very good. I think her recent series are very good, but this, not good. So I'm gonna put that here because, you know, it's fine. Cruel Prince in good, though the last one almost brings it to a no. The first two are super great though, really entertaining and I love it. Great romance. Actually, no, I'm gonna put it in Hard Eyes because of the romance. Yeah, that's where that belongs for sure. This Savage Song, great. I love V.E. Schwab's writing. This is a strong duology by her, very entertaining, would highly recommend, as well as The Trials of Apollo, which in a lot of ways I love more than the Percy Jackson series. I just think Apollo's perspective is absolutely hilarious. My Lady Jane, I'm gonna put in good, solidly great. Really, I love the characters. I love the reimagining of these historical worlds. Also super funny. Oh my god, does anyone remember the Summoning series? I'm gonna put this in no. Okay, furthermore, good. Lightning Thief, demigod tier, if only because they're demigods. Three Dark Crowns, great. I feel like I need to go faster. The Dragonair, I'm gonna put in Middle School Me Loved It because this is the Cindy Williams Trimus series that I feel like if I reread today, I don't know if I would love it as much as I did the first time when I read it in middle school versus her other series that have come after. I know would hold up, and I have read either an extension of those series and loved, and I just feel a lot more confident. This, I don't know. I'm gonna put here because it might not be as good as I remember it being. The Queen's Poisoner, I'm gonna put in great because I'm a big fan of this series currently. Oh my god, the Furies of Kaldur. Oh man. So this is one of my first forays into adult fantasy. I read this in high school and I loved it. It was my favorite series of all time. It's by Jim Butcher, who obviously wrote the Harry Dresden Files, and it's said to be like Pokemon meets like Roman fighting. And if you watch my early YouTube videos, I talked about this series all the time. It's so fundamental, but I don't know if it would hold up if I reread it today. I'm gonna put it in great because of how much I love it, but I might need to revisit this book in general, but this series was so, I loved it so much. Pairi of the Orange Tree is good. It had some flaws. The ending was kind of weak, but overall it was fine. Eon. Wow. Chinese Dragon Fantasy, Duology, good. Last Magician, good. Turn of the Century, has some cool magic. Wicked Lovely, I hated this book in middle school. I read it right after I finished City of Bones and I wanted more like fae romance. Picked this up, despised it. One of my least favorite books I've ever set my eyes on, even from a middle schooler's perspective. Not good. Enchantment of Ravens, good. I thought this is like a really good fae standalone story, really entertaining. Graceling, Middle School Me Loved It. This book rocked my world. I cried my eyes out when I read this book. And it like kind of introduced me to like more traditional fantasy at the time, like moving away from paranormal. I don't know if I would like it as much if I read it again, so I'm gonna keep it here. City of Brass, demigod tier. I think this is one of the most original and captivating political forward fantasy series I've read in a long time. Nevermore, I'm also gonna put in the demigod tier. The Nevermore middle grade fantasy series is my favorite middle grade fantasy series I have read, even more than The Keeper of the Lost Cities, because I think it's technically better. that I've read in the past 5 years. So this will be the only middle grade that makes it. Well, I guess Percy Jackson did, but aside from Percy Jackson, this will be the only middle grade series that will make it to this level. Vampire Academy. Oh my god. Anyone else? I'm gonna put it in middle school, me loved it. No, I'm gonna put it in no. Yeah, it's gonna go in no. Wicked Deep, good. I love a like mermaid, dark waters, seaside town, sisters, mystery kind of story. It just gets me every time. Price Guide to the Occult is good. Wicked Saints is a no. I really dislike that book quite a bit. Spinning Silver, a Demigod Tier. This is the book I wish I wrote myself. It's one of the most beautiful, compelling, standalone fantasy stories following multiple women. It's so well done. I love every second of that book, as well as how much I love Foundry Side, which also goes in the Demigod Tier. Robert Jackson Bennett has written 2 series, both of them almost my favorites of all time. House and Salt and Sorrow, just like Wicked Deep, kind of same category here. It's good. Winter's Promise, Demigod Tier. So good. So clever. Harry Potter. I need to scroll up. Harry Potter, let's try that again. God Tier. I don't think that needs much of an explanation. Need. What a terrible book. No. Twilight. Middle school me loved it. I'm not gonna put that in the no category. Twilight changed my life as a reader. I have to give it props. Sorcery of Thorns, I'm actually gonna put in the no category. I did not particularly like this book that much. I thought it was weak. Curse of Dark and Lonely, I'm gonna put in Heart Eyes because it has great romance and I love it for that. Starless Sea, I'm gonna put in great. This is a beautiful, beautiful lyrical story, and I think also a standalone, I think it has some great originality to it. Oh my gosh, what is this? This is the Looking Glass War series. No. That's all I'm gonna say. No. Fablehaven, middle school me loved it. Yes. The Thief series, Demigod Tier. Boom. This is my fave. Megan Wallen Turner, so good. If you like the Farseer trilogy, read the Thief series because you'll also love it. I'm gonna put the Farseer trilogy, not in Hard Eyes, but in Great. I don't feel like I've read enough of the books yet to have it higher than the Great, but it's solid so far. The first 2 books I've read I've really enjoyed, but I wouldn't say I have read enough to have it any higher in the ranking than Great. Finnegan of the Rock. This is one of the best YA trilogies out there. It's going in the Demigod Tier. Hobbit, I'll put into Great, objectively because it is The Hobbit, and that's just the level it deserves. Poison Study, I'm gonna put in Heart Eyes because I really love the romance in this. I think it has like other strong fantasy elements, but really I read it because of the romance, and I was compelled to continue reading because of the romance. Demon King series, I'm gonna put in Great because loved it. Lies of Locke Lamora, I'm also gonna put in Great, which I don't know if that's gonna be surprising. It's not quite Demigod Tier for me. I really enjoy this series. I think it's really entertaining. I think the characters have great banter and great relationships, and I appreciate the heists, but it's not quite Demigod Tier. It's definitely not God Tier either, but it's really great. Cool. So 100,000 Kingdoms, I'm also going to put into Great. I love N.K. Jemisin. This was a really solid trilogy. The third one, not as good as the first 2, and obviously not as good as the Broken Earth trilogy, but still one I really enjoyed and deserves to be highly ranked. Fallen, that's going to be a no. Oh my gosh, the C.S. Lewis series. Oh my gosh, why am I forgetting the name of this? The first one being The Magician's Nephew. Oh, this is hard. I'm going to put this high. I think I'm going to put this in the Demigod Tier. Because I don't know, I just love it, and I feel like if even though I read it in middle school, I feel like if I reread it, middle school me loved it. Yeah, I'm gonna put that there. All right, so Elantris by Brandon Sanderson goes in the good category for me. In my opinion, this is his weakest novel. It's also his first novel. It's definitely like worth reading and I liked it, but it's definitely like a 3-star read for me. Nothing mind-blowing. That being said, the next one we have here is Mistborn, which goes not there. Oh my gosh, how do I work my computer? Which goes into the demigod category. Not my favorite of his, but maybe it goes in the god tier. No, maybe, no. I'm gonna leave it in the demigod because I'll just skip ahead. The Way of Kings goes into the god tier. Hello, there you go. That's where you live, Way of Kings. You're so good. The Everlast series, middle school me loved it. I loved Neil Shusterman's books with Scott Westerfield in middle school. I still love Neil Shusterman's books, but I haven't read this in a very long time, but I loved it in middle school. Black Prism, I'm gonna put in great until I read the third one, or not the third one, the very last one. It's one that I've really, really enjoyed, but until I read that final book, I feel like I can't put it this high. Okay. The Clockwork series, Heart Eyes, for sure, as well as the Throne of Glass series, because I honestly read all these books because I love the romances so much. We're in the home stretch, people. Hopefully this was mildly entertaining. I don't even know at this point. Okay, the Wanderlust series, I'm gonna put in good, but this is a beautifully illustrated fantasy series, middle grade, that I love, and I've read the whole trilogy. It is beautifully illustrated. The story is like good, but the illustrations are exceptional. On a Pale Horse, I'm gonna also put in good. It's been a long time since I've read it and I haven't finished it. And I remember enjoying it, but it wasn't something that like absolutely blew my mind. The Redwall series, middle school me loved it. I mean, goodness, if you haven't read the Redwall series, I don't even know what to say to you. It's just like the coolest animal fantasy series of all time. It's just the truth. Jim Butcher, Harry Dresden, good. I like it. I'm excited to read more, but I've only read 2.5 books, still in the good category for me. Dark Hills Divide. Has anyone else read this? I was obsessed. Great series. Ruby Red. That's a no. That was one of the first series I read from like Hyped Booktube. It's like a time travel series. It's so bad, honestly. George R.R. Martin. This might be mildly controversial too. This might be mildly controversial, but I'm going to put it in the great category. I've only read the first 3 books to Game of Thrones, and I need to reread them. I was reading them alongside the show, and I think when the show began to veer off from the books, I stopped reading the series, and now that I hated the end of the show ending, I feel like I should give the books another try, you know, continue on that read. But for now, I'm going to put it in great, because obviously the first 3 were very good. Tamra Pierce, the Alana series, middle school me loved it. And Grave Mercy, I'm gonna put in the good. No, I'm gonna put in the no. Is that mean? That's where it's gonna go. So here they are. Here are my 100, I think, in 2 sorted books. And I hopefully didn't forget to, here it is, everyone. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts, but let me know. Alrighty guys, that is me tier ranking every single fantasy book I have ever read. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and it was somewhat entertaining as I just kind of sorted through my entire desktop computer. Anyway, I would love to hear some of your rankings below for some of these books, and yeah, let me know down below what you think, and if you want me to do any more tier rankings or if I was terrible at this, that's fine. You can say I was bad. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed and I will see you soon. Oh my gosh, that horn! Anyway, I'll see you guys soon with another video soon. Goodbye!